Hello, everyone. Eric Cox here with Netcapital, and I'm very excited to have with us today Dwi from Laegacy. Go ahead and say hey, Dwi.
Hi, everyone.
Let's allow a few moments for people to settle in, and then we'll dive right in. Thanks a bunch. All righty then, let's go ahead and dive in. So again, I'm Eric Cox with Netcapital. Thank you so much for joining us. Today I'm coming live from the Caribbean or Hawaii or something like that. So virtual background day. Excited to have with us again, Dwi, who is a founder of Laegacy. And we'll kind of start in just a moment. But before we do that, a couple of housekeeping items. As always, you can go directly to netcapital.com and search Laegacy and invest directly into this company. You can also click the links that I just added to chat, or you can go to netcapital.com/companies/Laegacy to get directly to the offering page and invest. There's a little bit more information there. There's a comment section as well. So do not hesitate to visit and invest. Again, as always, please do use the Q&A feature in Zoom. There's also a chat function, but Q&A works better for me to be able to track the questions and make sure that we get to as many of them as possible. So please do engage. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So with that said, no further ado, Dwi, why don't you come on in and tell us a little bit about the product itself before we start talking about the team. So what is Laegacy?
Sure. Let me start by introducing a little bit about Laegacy. So thank you, Eric, for your time. It all started in a humble dorm at Purdue University in summer 2018. Lynn, one of our co-founders, and I started brainstorming about few ideas about green technologies in general. And we also talk about some Evie ideas back then. The interesting point is that Lynn and I met each other professionally, and we just become a friend, and then we work together on this startup. So essentially what we are trying to do is creating a platform to increase the convenience of EV charging with the main purpose of increasing the EV adoption in the United States.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Dwi. And it's good. We'll hop back to like the problem and the solution. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the team and why you're so excited about what you're doing at Laegacy?
Yes. There are two reasons why I feel our team is the perfect team to work on this startup. First, our team is comprised of capable people. And secondly, we come from different backgrounds. All of our team members graduated with at least distinctions from their respective major, ensuring each of us is the best in our class. I graduated from Purdue University with the highest distinction in chemical engineering and was accepted to continue my study at MIT. Our current marketing director and finance director both have the experience of working in Fortune 500 companies. Lynn, one of the co-founders, he has great management skill as he was promoted to hold operational director for one of the World Bank affiliated nonprofit headquarters when he graduated, essentially managing all branches all around the globe. 6 of our 7 team players of our company are immigrants. The majority comes from different countries, including me. The first advantage, with a lot of different backgrounds, each of us can fill each other gap in the team. Secondly, coming from different countries means that you have to fully understand grit, willing to adapt, and know how to fight forward. I personally come from a low socioeconomic family. My parents own a humble rice shop back in my home country. Studying abroad was never my dream because it was too far-fetched due to my family economic condition. But thankfully, with unwavering hard work, I received scholarship that allowed me to finish my education, here in the United States. A kid that even had to worry about his next meal ended up here in the United States, graduated with the highest distinction in chemical engineering, and even got invited to study in one of the most, if not the most prestigious school in the world. I know how to fight, and I know the fight is not over. My team and I will keep fighting against all odds to bring success to our company.
Thank you so much for that, Dwi. And you will continue to fight on in Laegacy, and a lot of good things that can come from that. Why don't you tell us a little bit, Dwi, about your advisors and investors as well? I know that you've been able to add some pretty important people to that space also.
Yes. About our advisory boards, currently we have one advisor who worked for Ernst & Young. He's currently helping us to create our corporate strategy to move forward. And then we also have an advisor who has a lot of experience with marketing. She is currently helping us with devising different marketing strategies to get more customers before our launch day. And then we also have two advisors, one from Harvard University and the other one is from IBM, who are experts in the EV charging industry. They both help us to understand more and see more insights from the EV community perspective.
Absolutely. And before we talk too much about the electronic vehicle space, tell us about the problem that you're solving. What are you seeing in EV that needs Laegacy?
The root of the problem is that we feel that the growth of EV is not as fast as it ought to be because of the segregated charging infrastructure in the United States. We take an example. In Wisconsin-Madison, there are 214 EV charging stations, both owned by major companies or retail business owners. To access chargers of major charging companies, EV owners have to install mobile apps from each company. Imagine the hassle that EV owners have to go through to find the closest and most convenient chargers by checking each mobile app from different providers. Worse, none will show chargers provided by individuals at retail locations. Now imagine how many providers in the whole country. There are so many that we cannot get a reliable estimate on the number. We did an in-house research and we found that the average EV owner spends at least 50 hours per year to plan and travel excess distances to find a charger. From our research, 2 out of 10 Indiana and Illinois EV owners revert back to driving gas-powered cars due to this issue. So the solution that we are offering is we are trying to provide an aggregating platform where EV owners can find chargers from different providers just through a single app. It will increase the convenience of EV charging, and hopefully it will also increase the adoption of EV in the future.
Absolutely. And that is a direction that a lot of people are excited to move towards. So with that being the problem, convenient locations and people defecting from electronic vehicles because of the inconvenience, please tell us about the solution in Laegacy.
Yes. So the solution that we are trying to provide is we are currently creating this platform that can allow users to book and pay for chargers across different brands. Currently in the United States, there are approximately 20 major EV charging providers, and a major portion of EV charging stations are owned individually by business owners. So our proposition is to allow users to book all of these chargers through a single app so that they don't need to install 20 mobile apps and try to find the best chargers for them.
Got it. And so for the users, what does that experience look like? And then we'll talk about what it looks like for the hosts.
Yes. So for the users, it will be as simple as putting your target locations, and then our platform will give some suggestions of few EV charging stations. and the EV owner just need to click with which one works best for them, and then they can pay and do the booking, everything on this single platform. It is essentially very similar to Expedia, but it is for EV charging.
Awesome. And then so how about, what does it look like from the host side?
From the host side, we will provide an agreement. Currently, we have prepared an agreement that will allow us to work seamlessly with the host. So from this agreement, we will pay the host every time someone charges at their locations. And then, yeah, as simple as that. They just need to approve our platform to list their charger, and that's all. Yeah.
Awesome. And then for locations that don't exist yet, not the ones that are being listed, is there a company that you're working with that like does the upfront cost or list the locations? How does that part work?
Yeah, so this is something that we also want to offer to our users. So let's say you are working for a company, but your company doesn't have a charger, but you really need the charger. And so you can just send a request to us, and then we will assess the location. We will do the negotiation with your company. We will take care of the financing and everything. You just sit back, and then within a month, we will make it happen and allow you to charge.
Now that's really interesting. And you even do the permitting if it's a public or a residential location as well, right?
Exactly, yes.
So that's one of the pieces I think that really separates you from other players in the space, is your ability to not only work on the financing, work through the compliance and legal elements, but also ultimately get the charger in location relatively quickly. That's really exciting.
Yes.
So let's take a turn for a moment here, and we're about 15 minutes in. So I do want to remind the attendees, thank you so much for joining, and please do not hesitate to use that Q&A functionality. Awesome. Looks like we got a question coming in. So before we move on to the business model, let's go ahead and address this attendee question. So is Laegacy going to be paid by using their APP or per each charge or kilowatt hour? So I guess we are going to talk about business model.
Yeah. So yes, thank you for your question. It is a very thoughtful question. So currently with the limitation on our side, we will charge every time the EV owner charges their vehicle. The way we charge them is by time basis. So we will count the total time the EV owner used the charger. We know this is not the most ideal situations for EV owners, and we are trying to work on this. We are trying to implement an extra hardware that can calculate the total power transferred. In the future, we are planning to move toward that direction and charge users based on the power transferred instead of time basis.
Great, thank you. And then on the more detailed part of the commission structure, is there going to be a per session cost, and then is there a percentage of the total transaction, or what is the deeper metrics behind the business model? How does that work?
Yes, so the way the commission will work is we will take some percentage of the transaction, but the beautiful thing that we try to offer is that we will burden this fee to the providers and not the EV owners. So EV owners, if you use, for example, ChargePoint, you will see the exact same price. You will get charged the exact same price. We will get the commission from ChargePoint and not from you.
No, that's really interesting. So going through that payer rather than through the individual user.
Yes.
Okay. How large is this market? I think a lot of us have heard about electronic vehicles. Some of us might even own them. How big is the EV charging market?
The current market size for our product is approximately $600 million at the moment. But we have to realize that we are still at a very early stage of EV era. And with the current trajectory, the year-over-year growth is expected to be 32%. So in 2030, we are looking at a $5 billion market, but we expect EV adoption will be faster with our offering, and turnover rate will also be lowered because cases such as EV owners have to give up their EV due to the inconvenience of charging won't be an issue anymore. It will also be less frustrating for EV owners to recharge their EV on the road with our platform.
Got it. And the 600 million, that's just in the United States market. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Do you have the metrics for the global market on hand by chance? I think I do.
Currently, we don't have any data on our hand about the global market since we are focusing to serve the EV owners in the United States at the moment.
No problem. That sounds good. Targeting the United States. I think the global is closer to around 15 billion right now, but you know, focusing on the US $600 million market, that makes a bunch of sense. And so we're factoring the number of electronic vehicles, the frequency with which they stop by these charging, and then the cost per charge. Is that how you were able to get to the market size?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. That's great. So let's talk about progress so far. I know you're relatively new to the scene, but you've been able to make quite a bit of traction. You want to share some of those metrics with us?
Yes. Up to this point, we have reached the final development stage for our iOS and Android apps. Our team will start testing them in January and release them sometime in February or early March. Regarding our marketing, we have at least 58 wait lists until this moment, and the number is growing rapidly. We also have secured a partnership with a major EV manufacturer and on our final approach with securing deals with 2 institutional EV charging providers. All of the aspects for a successful release, mobile apps, users, and charging providers have all been secured.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that traction. And I know when we were talking about the problem, you referenced quite a bit of data about people defecting from electronic vehicles, what people really need and what they're looking for. How were you able to collect that data? Was that over a certain number of interviews, or how did you get that info?
Yes, so we did our market validation a few months ago in the summer, and we talked to more than 430 EV owners in Indiana and Illinois. And then we collect this data, we follow up with them, and then we basically, that's how we get the data.
Great, over 430 interviews. And I know you've raised a little bit of capital already, and some of that came from NSF, right? The National Science Foundation?
Yes, that's correct.
Congratulations on that. No, that's no easy feat there.
Thank you.
A couple of, you know, a national competition, international competition award as well. So it definitely seems like you're going in the right direction. Have you been able to secure commitments to any charging points already? I know this is a little early, but.
Yes, currently there are 14 charging points that we have secured at the moment in Indiana.
14 in Indiana already. That's great. And I know you're starting with the Midwest because of your relationship with Purdue.
Yes.
So that's great. And I won't hold that against you as another member of the Big Ten. So I'll just leave that right there. And then how are prospective users looking? Do you have an idea of how many prospective users you've already been able to get excited about working with Laegacy?
Currently, we have 58 lined up prospective users, even before we release our mobile apps. So yeah, we are really excited to see the growth once we release our apps.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on that traction. Going back to the audience here, thank you so much for the participation. Is your app going to be real time? So a user is sent to an available charging station and not driving over to find out that the charging station is in use? That's a good question.
Thank you for the question. So yes, we are trying to create a platform where the data is real time. So you'll see which charger is available and which charger is currently being used.
That's really important. I think that's something I hadn't thought about. So thank you so much for the audience participation here, and it's just flowing in. This is what I love to see. Very interactive. Let's keep this party going. So how will you resolve the issue regarding different technologies associated with charging stations? A Tesla charging station versus a VW versus GM.
So currently in the United States, the majority of chargers are differentiated into two classes. One is the Tesla chargers, and the other one is the standardized charger, which is being adopted by basically all EVs other than Tesla. So currently we just need to focus on these two different chargers for the AC technology. And yeah, that's how we work on the chargers technology.
So that's interesting. So let's say if somebody requests a location, I imagine, are they providing you the data of what type of charger they're looking for, or do you plan to just install both at that location? What does that process look like?
So at this moment, we will provide an adapter at every single location so that both Tesla or non-Tesla owners can charge at that particular location.
Oh, that seems like a reasonable, just like an attachment to the outlet. So you could use whatever car you're driving should be covered in that one station.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's good to know. Awesome. A couple more questions coming in here. What happens if the grid goes down?
That's a really good concern. I think at this moment, we don't have a solid solution for that. We need to think about that a little bit more and find a solution. What if the grid goes down? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. There might be some backup generators or things, but those are a whole different model and a different cost as well. So yeah, that would be interesting to flesh out. I'm not sure that there's a great solution for that quite yet. Another question coming in from the team here of the attendees, and thank you all for sticking around for this. How long does it take to charge a vehicle on average for non-EV owners?
On average, it takes about 40 to 90 minutes to charge 80% of your battery. But I don't think people need to charge that much on the road. Usually people charge mostly at home and just charge some extra 20% or 40% on the road. But yeah, that's if you use the level 2 charger, or for Tesla owner, it's called the destination charger. But if you use the level 3 or superchargers, it will take much faster. It will only take about 10 to probably 20 minutes to fill 80% of your battery.
Thanks for that. And before I move on to this next question coming in from the participants, I'd love to remind everybody, okay, and there's something else in the chat, so I'll make sure I'll check that out. I'll remind everybody that you can go directly to netcapital.com and search Laegacy, that's Laegacy, and you can invest directly into this company. There's also a little bit more information there and a question and answer section as well. But please continue to ask questions through here. I would love to keep those in real time. And do remember that you can, as always, invest directly in these companies. Looks like here's another question here, getting to the brass tacks. Since charging time is essentially determined by the type of charger that you install, whether it's a 240 volt or a 120 volt, which do you plan to utilize in your chargers, the larger or the smaller capacity one?
So currently, we will just accept any chargers. If it is 120 volt or 200 volts, we will adjust the rate based on the power that it can transfer, the chargers can transfer. So yeah, that's how we currently run our business model.
Gotcha. And then when you said the rapid chargers, that what Tesla is doing with that, they're actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, are they actually removing batteries and installing a different battery for those ones? That's different than what you're doing. You're setting up charging stations that are the traditional plug-in stations that you see around the United States.
Just to clarify, so currently Tesla superchargers, it is also a normal charger in which you need to
Okay.
plug the chargers to your car. Currently, there is another technology used by a Chinese company. I believe it's called Neo, which replaced the old battery with the charged battery. But at this moment, we haven't adopted that technology yet in the United States. Maybe in the future. Yeah.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it. I really do. So this is along the lines of what most people are doing, being able to just go to these charging stations that are out in the public, not manned, no people there required to do anything. You're just plugging in as if you're pumping gas.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Oh man, so much engagement. This is what I love to see. Let's keep this interactive. So is Laegacy going to own and install the charging stations, or just software to lead drivers to charging stations owned by other suppliers? Very important question.
Thank you for your questions. I feel that is a really good question. So currently for chargers that have been installed, it will still be owned by each providers. But for locations where there is no chargers and our users request for chargers to be installed, then the charger will be owned by us. The host just need to give us the permit to install the charger at the location and provide the electricity. Yeah.
Interesting. And so does the revenue model change based off of those, whether you own them or not? Is there a different fee structure, or would it be the same either way?
The structure will looks very similar. The only difference is we will take more commission if we own the charger itself.
Got it. Okay, so you're splitting. Yeah, you're sharing the revenue coming in, but the percentage might change depending on who owns the actual facility.
Exactly.
Got it. Thanks, Dwi. Awesome. And they continue to come in. Will there be Evie stations at rest stops for long travels across sparse roads, et cetera? I guess this can actually go to a broader question of, are there specific locations? You're currently in the Midwest, which we love. Are there specific locations that you plan to target, including rest stops?
Yes. So this is one of our big project. We want to install the level 3 or the superchargers along the highways so that people who travel interstate, they can just make a quick stop, just charge within 15 minutes and then continue driving. That's one of our long-term goals at the moment. But at the moment, we will just focus on aggregating chargers from different providers. That's our current main goal. But again, we have the plan to install level 3 chargers and also list it on our platform.
One of the things I think that's really exciting about this proposition is that you're really leaning into user feedback to determine where these locations are. So yeah, I imagine if there's a ton of requests along a major highway, then that's a good opportunity. And you can use that data to encourage the producers to support investing in that area because they know the users are interested in it. And then if they're showing that they really prefer a different location, then you can kind of adjust to where the users want to be. So yeah, it sounds like if rest stops show up as a requested location, then it seems like a good opportunity. Oh, another Midwest specific question. So what is your expected growth for Indiana for 2021? Any ideas around the number of charging stations and users?
So looking at our current data, since we have tried to get prospective users even before we launch our mobile app, we are expecting 30% to 60% of growth per month. So at the end of next year, we are expecting to get at least 500 to 1,000 users in Indiana alone. And then we will expand to neighboring states such as Ohio, Illinois, and other states.
Great. I'd be curious to know, by region, do you have an idea of the kind of like the adoption of electronic vehicles in the Midwest versus the coast?
Yes, we have some data about EV adoptions, but I currently don't have it on my hand. Uh, but we are expecting a faster growth once we expand our service area because the EV adoption in Illinois and Ohio and Michigan is much higher than Indiana, our home state. So yeah, we are expecting a faster growth of our user base once we expand our service area.
Yeah. Okay. Great. No, that's exciting. And once you have the application, you know, I guess there's not so much really restricting the region as much. You could expand to other states nearby and further as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Back to like kind of pure investor facing questions. You're currently raising capital. You've had some, you know, quite a bit of traction so far. What are the big categories that you plan to use some of this capital raised for? I'm not sure if you have that directly in front of you, but I know that it's on your offering page on Netcapital.
Yeah, so there are two aspects of our business that we will focus on and use the majority of the capital. The first one is we will try to perfect our platform because I feel if there are a lot of issues with our mobile apps, people may not like it and then they will just leave our platform. So we want to ensure that the churn rate of our platform is less than 7%. That's our target at the moment. Secondly, we also try to get more users. So we will focus our capital on our marketing side of our business as well.
Awesome. And actually on that note, that's a really good point. Like, can we talk a little bit more about your marketing and sales plans? What is like your current customer acquisition cost? How do you think that might change over time? And which channels do you plan to use for getting the word out there and acquiring users?
Yes, so currently we try a more traditional and personalized approach. We currently send a lot of handwritten letters to EV owners in Indiana with the hope that they will respond to the letter and then reach out to us. Um, Currently, we get most of our prospective users through that method. We also try to do a more organic method, such as using MailChimp as our email marketing campaign. But the current customer acquisition cost is at $4.2 per user. We foresee this number will grow in the future because the method of sending handwritten letters is not scalable. We need to do some different strategies that is more scalable in the future.
Awesome. And I see in your plan that there's also a plan for some social media push, leaning into some of the electronic vehicle community groups. And then there's a piece here talking about partnerships. Are there some early discussions or even some conversations that you'd be able to share with us about potential partnerships or partnerships you've already sealed?
Yes. So we currently we talk with both EV charging manufacturers and EV charging providers. We at this moment, since we feel like we don't have a lot of leverage, we just negotiated with a few smaller EV charging network providers in the Midwest area. We have some successful conversation, and the goal is not only they will list the chargers on our platform, but also to share their, for example, EV charger buyers. Maybe we can reach out to them. For example, if they are a restaurant owner, we can reach out to them and then ask them if they want to join our platform. That's the plan with the partnership.
Got it. Fantastic. Before I move into the competitive landscape, there's another question from the attendees here. There is an estimate that there is only about 2% of EV cars currently on the road in the US, and expected increase to 5% by 2025. What is your growth model? That is, when do you think, how many years will it take to expand across all the states and be profitable?
We Currently, the plan is we will focus in Indiana on the first 2 quarters in 2021. Once we prove that the model is working in Indiana, we will expand our network to the whole Midwest, so the 12 states of Midwest. We plan to do that. Hopefully, we can cover the whole Midwest by summer 2022. And then from there, we will just expand nationally and cover the whole United States. At this moment, we focus our effort to grow our business. So similar to other tech startups, we will focus more on recycle the capital that we have to further expand and expand more. I don't have the exact number of when we will see profits, since again, we will focus on the growth instead of the profit itself at the moment. As you can see, we are a very user-oriented business. We want to make sure that our users are happy with our offering. And I think that's the most important for us at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the questions continue to come in. Thank you so much. How many full-time employees are there already on board, and how many part-time?
So currently we have 4 full-time employees, including me. We are working without any compensation because we count all of the full-time employees as co-founders or the core team of our business. We will ensure that this business will work before accepting a single penny. For our part-times, we have, at the moment, we have 10 people working for our startup. 8 people are working on the software development side, and 2 people are working on the marketing side.
Awesome, thank you for that. And that was a great breakdown as well. I really do love to hear that type of commitment from the founding team. Without taking compensation at this time. Another question from the community: as we move into new environmentally friendly tech sources for travels as a society, what is the potential for self-contained charging technology being adopted by Laegacy?
Do you mind elaborate more? What do you mean by self-contained?
Yeah, so I think that would be great. If you wouldn't mind, Thomas, kind of elaborating a little further on the self-contained charging technology that you'd like to see adopted. And in the meantime, while Thomas elaborates on that, let's talk a little bit about the competitive landscape, if you're open to that. What are the other players in the space, and where do you feel like you get to really provide a competitive advantage and differentiate yourself?
Yes, so currently in the United States, we can categorize our competitors into 3 main groups. The first one is public EV charging network providers. This includes companies such as ChargePoint, EVgo, Blink, SemaConnect, and others. They essentially try to establish their own network in the United States. And then the second category is the peer-to-peer EV charging network. This essentially, they try to create an Airbnb model for EV chargers. They invite residential EV owners to provide their home chargers for public use. This includes companies such as I forgot the name of the company.
does that, right?
PlugShare is the other type of the category, which is the EV charging database. They show all chargers across the nation. However, they don't allow users to do payment and booking through their platform. So essentially, we are trying to create a very similar model to EV charging database, but we take it 1 step further by allowing users to do booking and payment on a single platform. This is a very new model. In fact, we are the first one to do this exact model in the United States. So yeah, we are excited to see what happens in the future.
That's great. And I know two more of the pieces that you plan to leverage to differentiate yourself are just the convenience of the charging locations by virtue of users being able to recommend locations, and then really trying to build out a robust app. I know some of the apps have really kind of fallen short on how much they provide, how much value they create, and how robust they are. That's great. And I know it looks like we're still waiting to hear back about the self-contained charge. Oh, here it is. In-vehicle recharging. In-vehicle recharging, outdating recharge stations. Okay, so do you have a projection of the technology lifespan? Not super sure about that either. I'm sorry. I'll just read it directly, and maybe Dwi, you have an idea on this, but in-vehicle recharging, outdating recharge stations, do you have a projection of this technology lifespan? I'm not sure if that might be industry specific that you might be able to help us with, or we might have to maybe just, what are your first thoughts on that?
Yes, so I'll try to answer the question. I think that's a really great question. In-vehicle charging, one of the technology that I feel can do that is the photovoltaic technology. I personally was a researcher in photovoltaic technology before. To be honest, it's hard to project when the in-vehicle charging technology will become commercialized. Even in the lab scale, we don't have technology to sufficiently charge your EV and allow you to use like a normal charging station. But talking a little bit about the charging technology, the data from McKinsey, the consulting group, in 2030, more than 95% of EV chargers in the United States will be level 2 chargers. So we still foresee a long lifetime for this current technology that we are currently using. We will just see more level 3 chargers. At the moment, I believe the level 3 chargers is less than 1% in the United States. We expect level 3 chargers to grow rapidly in the future and cover at least 2 to 3% in 2030.
Thank you so much for that. Fantastic. Another question coming into the Q&A, and then I will also get to you as well, Jeff, on chat. Are the 14 charging stations you referred to earlier owned by Laegacy? And how long did it take to accomplish this task? Really good question.
Thank you for the question. The 14 locations at the moment, all of the chargers are owned by the businesses. Currently, they have the chargers. They just ask us to list their chargers. From the host perspective, one thing that we will also do is try to promote their businesses if they have EV chargers, so that EV owners will be more willing to visit their places instead of other businesses. So this is one thing that we also offer for business owners.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So none of those 14 are owned by Laegacy at the time. And that's a really interesting marketing opportunity to say, hey, you know, like same way that people might be seeking out pet friendly, this is kind of an EV friendly business. So this is where you should direct your patronage. That's really, exactly. That's great. That's great. So I want to be delicate with this next question to make sure we don't trip up any legal or compliance issues here, but I think we can delicately manage this. What are your big picture fundraising plans from here? Do you think that you will eventually need to raise more capital outside of this current offering?
At this moment, we don't see that we will raise any more funding outside of Netcapital. At least at this rate, we feel like we can reach our goal. But again, we will do our next funding round on the third quarter of 2021. That's for our seed round. The reason is we want to test our business model first with the capital that we collected from Netcapital. And then afterward, if we see that there is a room for us to grow in the United States, then we will raise a larger amount of funds to help us to grow faster in the United States.
Thanks, Dwi. I think we managed that just the right way. As we get closer and closer to the end of our conversation here, please do remember to use the Q&A functionality through Zoom. And it's a little bit harder to keep track of what's going on in chat, but we do want to make sure we answer as many of your questions as possible. And of course, do not forget that you can go directly to netcapital.com and invest in Laegacy. Just search for Laegacy. As we're coming to a conclusion, and I know that you've discussed what you've been able to do so far with this beta, the traction you're able to accomplish. Can you tell us a little bit more about your kind of 3-year milestones that you have, kind of roughly planned out? I know you talked about probably raising more capital in Q3 2021, but what are some of the kind of strategic big goals that you'd like to accomplish through 2023?
Yes. I'll talk a little bit further. So about our 5 years plan. By 5 years time, we foresee to secure partnership with big institutional EV charging providers such as ChargePoint or EVgo, SamaConnect. And we'll do that all around the United States. And we expect to include at least 80% of chargers in the whole nation in our platform. Several cross-sell and upsell strategies have also been considered as well, including creating a travel planning feature on our platform or others. In 10 years' time, we expect a more robust implementation of our platform, including but not limited to implementation of our platform within the EV itself, so that EV owner can navigate, book the chargers, and pay for the chargers from the console of the EV dashboard. Technologies such as V2C, where your EV will drive itself to the nearest available charger, is also considered. So yeah, basically the possibilities are endless with EV technologies.
Oh man, I'm so glad I asked. What an exciting possibility in the future there. That's fantastic. Last couple minutes here and a couple more questions coming in. It seems that the critical point will be locations of your charging stations that you plan to install. Will you be using any large data sets to establish best possible locations for your charging stations in the 12 targeted states and nationwide? Good question.
So currently, since our main focus is to aggregate chargers from different providers, we won't use any, we don't need to use any data at this moment, just because we don't spend any expenses to install a new chargers. But for the case where EV owners are requesting a place to get the chargers installed at the location, our current approach is to follow them based on the request. We will not use big data just because at this moment, most companies are using big data. They are just installing chargers at places with high traffic. On the other hand, sometimes EV owners need chargers to be available at their workplace or places that they often visit. So we try to give a more personalized feeling of this request-based charging installation.
I think it's a really important part. It's not like you're going small data. If you expand your user base large enough, you will have a massive data set, but it's just an incredibly powerful, personalized data set in that it is all user-generated content and how you make your decisions. I think it's a really interesting twist to the model versus the traffic at a mall is large. Let's get some chargers there. So I think that'll be interesting to see what data you're able to get from your users over time. Definitely in the last few minutes here, and it looks like we're able to answer all the questions. Thank you so much to our participants for asking all those really thoughtful questions. I always like to end, because I'm old school, with kind of a closing remarks situation here. So Dwi, I know we hadn't prepared this, but Is there anything that you'd like to be the last thing that you leave these attendees with? Is there a last reason why now is the time to invest? I know you mentioned that the seed round might not be open to the public the way that this is. So this might be one of the few opportunities for the listeners to be able to get involved here. But what is your kind of last message reminder of now is the time to invest in Laegacy?
Yes. As I have mentioned before, we are still in a very early era of Evie. We foresee a really fast growth of EV technology in the future, and we also foresee that as we are playing in this field, in the EV charging field, we will also grow as fast as the EV in the United States. EV in the future will be the normal car of the future. So we really need help from our prospective investors to help us to become a part of the future. And the benefit of doing that is, one, you are doing a great favor for the world. You are helping us to increase EV adoption, thus reducing the carbon emission. And secondly, that will be the chance for you to keep getting updates from us. In fact, for our next seed round, we are planning to offer our existing investors to invest first before we go for the big shot, such as like VC firms. So yeah, if you want to invest in us, we will make sure that you'll be happy with the investment you made. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic, Dwi. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing with your potential investors here. Again, we have Dwi here, co-founder of Laegacy. Laegacy is actively raising capital on netcapital.com/companies/Laegacy, where you can click the link in the chat here. As always, this will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you could share this with your friends and family and help drive even more investment into a really exciting and interesting company actively raising. Thanks again to all of our participants and your questions. That was a fantastic attendee engagement. Thank you so much. But that concludes the end of our program. Again, thank you, Dwi. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.